Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of EyeOnOshkosh. I'm your host, Cheryl Hentz, and really excited about our show tonight. We're going to be talking about two different nonprofit organizations and some upcoming events that they have. The first one, I'm pleased to introduce Colleen Bries to my left. She is a photographer with the Color Brave Photo Project, and there's a much longer name. It's called the Color Brave Photo Project. Black and Brown Faces, a New Narrative. And we're going to find out exactly what that mouthful means. But also joining us tonight, for the first time ever, I don't think you've been on the show ever, have you?
No.
All right. Well, both newbies, but...
better late than never.
Yeah, that's right. And you'll probably be on in the future, too. Aaron Sherer is joining us. He's the executive director of the Paine Arts Center and Gardens here in Oshkosh. So welcome to both of you. So this is a traveling exhibit, in a sense. It starts at the Paine and then travels around to other places within the community. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But tell us about the name. What does the name really mean? And who is sponsoring this?
So the name was very important to come up with Black and Brown Faces, a New Narrative. That portion of it was really just sharing about why people of color moved to Oshkosh, why they live in Oshkosh, why they are here. Because despite some negative stereotypes or negative reasons of why people of color are here, we wanted to shift the narrative to we're just people.
Right, right.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I've heard for a long time, and I'm sure you guys have heard as well, is that ever since the prison has been in town, you know, if people of color are here or Hispanic, you know, if they're Hispanic, they're here. Everybody's here for the prison. And that just is not the case at all.
Correct.
So, and then what is the other reason? I can't recall what the other reason is why they say people of color are here. Do either of you remember offhand?
Well, there's a few, but one is that, they just moved here for like a job at the university or something like that, which is kind of, it might be true that they moved here, but that's a positive, not like a secondary, like they're somehow a secondary citizen of the community. It's like, no, we're thrilled they moved here, you know, because there was a good job at a good university.
You bet.
And then I think maybe there's been this perception, they just moved here and they're from the hood, is what I've heard of Milwaukee or Chicago, which I don't even know what that means, but it still, it kind of layers on like somehow they're not a legitimate member and they didn't move here the reason I moved here was because there was a job. It's a great community. There's good schools. There's good businesses, nice people. And that's why anyone moves here.
Right, right. So the objective behind this, or the purpose behind the project, how did you get involved and what is the main purpose behind it?
So I got involved a little over a year ago when Tracy, the director of Fit Oshkosh, had approached me regarding this project, and she was putting together a proposal to write a grant for the Wisconsin Humanities Grant, I believe that's what it's called. And so I helped her put together the vision of what we wanted this to be, and we submitted it and got it. But then on top of it, Aaron, you had also submitted a grant to the Oshkosh Communities Foundation.
Helped with a grant,
yes,
but it's the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation.
Yes.
But on behalf of FIT. Yep.
Correct, on behalf of FIT, and so then we won that one and were awarded that one as well to help fund this project. And I was brought on board because Tracy was seeking a photographer, a professional photographer that was within the local area, preferably someone that was a person of color as well and was from Oshkosh, and I literally fit the bill for every single one of them. I was born in Appleton but raised in Oshkosh, lived here my whole life, went to high school, middle school, elementary school. My undergraduate was not here, but my master's degree was at UW Oshkosh. So much of my family and my livelihood is here, and being a person of color, it just fit perfectly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. So you got involved, and when did you start taking photographs for this exhibit, and how did you pick, and we've got some pictures that we're going to show a little bit later, but how did you pick the subjects that you were going to feature?
It was a collective of an entire team of us came together that Tracy had put together from folks at the university, Aaron, myself, and we all came together to kind of pool in who we thought would be great candidates for the project. We didn't start doing photos until October. About October timeframe is when we started getting the photos and started ramping up on that portion to get the content prepared.
The conversations about who might be photographed, we knew we were going to just focus on 21 because in addition to the photographs, there's short stories about each person, and that takes time. They've done hour-long interviews that then they've condensed down into a short story, and that's university faculty and staff have been helping with that. But so we just said, well, let's focus on 20 and tell 20 because that's actually a lot. And then the committee conversations about who might be photographed were some of the most interesting conversations. Really good, positive conversations, but this idea, we want young and old. We want men and women. We want different ethnicities. We want people who have lived here for their whole lives, people who have just moved here for a year or two.
Sure.
And we also, I thought one of the most interesting things is we wanted, we didn't want to, what did they say, make it this rosy as if everyone moves here and has a positive experience. So it was also important that in that mix is people who have had challenges moving here or challenges in their lives in this community. So we like the success stories. I mean, Colleen's story is amazing. And what she's done and her family has done is just an amazing story. And so we want to tell those stories as well. But again, just wanted to make sure that it wasn't all like this overly naive kind of exhibition.
Right. And giving a false impression.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so you said there's 20 photographs in all, and I think we have, 4 or 5 that we're going to be showing tonight. So why don't we take a look at the first one here? And, okay, so what does this... I love your work, by the way.
Thank you.
She's really an artist photographer, I'm going to say.
Artist photographer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I love your work. Now, what does this depict?
So this is Grace, and she is a professor at the university.
Okay.
And the goal in the photos, when I took all the photos, the purpose wasn't sit here, smile, look at the camera, and go. It was more of a, let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Tell me about your story. Tell me about you, who you are. And as we're having this conversation, I'm clicking and I'm taking a photo. So
wonderful
every
idea.
single
Yes.
so every single one of the photos in this exhibition is all photos of people while they're in conversation, mid-conversation, reacting, talking, explaining, being themselves, laughing wholeheartedly. So everyone has a different reaction. Everyone looks differently. Everyone's photos are differently. We didn't tell anyone what to wear, what not to wear. Very simple. Come as you are. That's how we want to document you. And so Grace is just she was a fantastic character.
Okay.
Very professional, very poised, but also had a good sense of humor.
Sure. And here we have, this is, I believe, Tracy Robertson's daughter, is it not?
It is, and I didn't know that at first. So I'm talking to her and I'm interviewing her and I'm asking her about everything, and she was great. I loved her. I loved her hair color. I loved everything, and she was wonderful. Good personality. I had a really great conversation, and as a younger student, she's a college student, and she was fantastic. So for her, it made so much sense to really just get her with that very just blank look. So for her, I had her do that because that fit who she was, and it really matched and showcased the kind of person
Let's
she was.
take a look at the next one. That's a great one. Now, he was obviously thinking of something very fun and happy-go-lucky that has happened in his life.
This is Mouche. He is...
I'm sorry, what's his
Mouche.
name? Mouche.
He is wonderful, and he's got 2 little boys that are just adorable. But he is from Africa, from, I want to say Zambia?
That could be, I'm not sure.
Could be Zambia, but don't quote me on that. But very great sense of humor.
Well,
Just
I love
fantastic.
I love his look there. Now, do you recall offhand? I know you took a lot of pictures, but do you recall offhand what he was talking about or thinking about when you snapped this photo?
I think we were just talking, and his family was there. So his wife and his 2 sons were actually there, and they were running around, and they were talking too. And I think at some point he just looked up and he laughed, and I snapped the picture, and I fell in love with this photo.
It's
and
great.
we have been using it a lot.
Sure, sure. All right, how about the next one?
So this is Barber Rich. He actually owns Rich's Barbershop right downtown here on Pearl Avenue, and he's the kind of person that everyone falls in love with. You can't hate the guy, but his story is incredibly powerful because he is one of the rare subjects that we did talk to where he did actually come here because of the prison.
Okay.
But because of that, it really helped shape his idea of the city and what he wanted to do for the community. And he really saw that there was a need for certain help within the community and within not just the colored community, but the poorer community as well within Oshkosh. And so he has really strived to become a pillar to help out community, get involved, be involved in the chamber, be involved in city events, and really give back in every capacity that he can. And like I said, anyone that talks to him, you just love the guy. But he's a fantastic person.
Okay, so there's going to be, as I was kind of looking, I found some different material on a couple different websites, the Paine's website included. And as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but there are going to be people, will there be one person at each photo talking about their challenges, their reasons for coming here? It was my understanding that someone's going to be there helping to facilitate conversation around the photos themselves. Do I have that right?
I don't think one at each photo. I think the goal is
Okay.
to have a greeter and 2 facilitators
Okay.
there at every point. But every photo will be on an easel and it presented like an artwork because they are artworks.
Sure.
And then each one's going to be accompanied by a signed stand that has the subject's name and has that narrative, that story we were talking about.
Okay.
So with each one, you can read, a little bit about who the photo of. So it's
Sure.
kind of a reflective project. But then the idea is, to have people there who can kind of go deeper or answer questions. And there's going to be a couple opportunities to actually sit people down and have these color brave conversations,
Sure,
they're called, which
sure.
I love.
Yes, and for folks who don't know, when we refer to Tracy Robertson or we refer to FIT, FIT is just a short name for Fit Oshkosh, which is a nonprofit here in the community that helps to promote racial literacy. And Tracy's been a guest on this show a number of times and just does a wonderful job. And so I know that she will pick the right facilitators for these conversations.
And this project, we've kind of jumped right into it, and we've hinted at it, but really has been the brainchild of Tracy and Fit. And it was almost a year ago that Tracy, had this idea to do a photo exhibition. I have to, really give her credit. She had a strong sense of what she thought the potential was and what she wanted it to be.
Right.
And then she's taken the steps and found the right people to make it happen. And I was one of the first people she spoke to. And, my responses at the beginning, we absolutely want to be involved. How can I be helpful? And I've, provided some advice. And so I was telling you before, when Tracy first came to me, she had really the concept for the whole thing. And one of the bits of advice I gave her was, I just said, my experience is if you can find one photographer who's really talented, but also understands the subject. So if it could be a person of color, it would make this so much more powerful. Because she kind of had this time, maybe it'll be multiple photographs or student, and there's strengths to that too. But I was like, if you really, because she really had this vision that she wanted like an art exhibition of photographs,
yeah.
you know, like a high quality, dignified, you know, something to really be proud of, kind of,
right.
not just candids on the street, kind of put it on social media photos.
Even though those are fun too.
Those, right, yeah, and it's not to criticize those.
And they can speak wonderful messages too.
Right, and there's wonderful examples of that. So
different.
that's what I don't mean to criticize that,
Right,
but just her vision. And I was like, you know, if you find one person, then you're going to get a cohesive show. It's going to be beautiful. And so I don't get any credit for her finding Colleen, because she's the one who recruited Colleen and did that. But anyway, so you know, while I've provided some input, it really has very much been Tracy and Fit who have been the force behind this project, and then the Paine's just been lucky enough, besides my serving on the committee helping organize it, that we're just lucky enough that we get to host the opening. So
Sure.
we kind of get
Yeah,
that,
and I want to
the
talk to you about
spotlight at
that
the
in
beginning.
a
Yeah.
minute. But how did Tracy find you?
I honestly don't even remember. I just remember getting a phone call, and she said she heard about me from someone. I can't even pinpoint the name, so I feel horrible for not remembering. But she contacted me, pitched this idea. She said, let's meet. And didn't know too much about it at the time. We met up at the Draw in Appleton. And after about a 30 minute conversation, I was all on board. I said, let's do this. Let's go at it. I was already brainstorming ideas, and then it happened. She submitted the grant. She did so much work for it.
Sure.
And it was a big proposal for her. Probably her largest one that she had submitted, and scary to go into it not knowing if it was something that we would get granted. Because in the end, I was so invested, like body, mind, and soul. I was in it. I knew I wanted to be a part of it. So it's like, there's no way we can't not get this grant.
So this is a little insider story, but so at our very first meeting when I met Colleen, and it was kind of the organizing, okay, let's get this going, and she was already 5 steps ahead of us. But so Colleen was in the military, and which is an amazing thing about her background. She also has an MBA in finance.
Wow.
And she's an artist photographer. So in the meeting, after there was a lot of discussion, she was like, okay, now we need action steps. Who's doing what? And she's like, so you're doing, so not only was she the photographer, she really kind of
She was an organizer.
and really
yeah.
kept us on task,
Yeah.
which has been great.
How did the Paine, I mean, obviously you were part of the planning of this, if you will, but what made the Paine want to get involved with having this exhibit there?
Well, I love that question. You know, we want to be involved in the community and connected to the community, so it was a great way to do that. You know, then more so, I say that, you know, there are challenges in this community, and I think one of the best ways to face challenges is through art and through storytelling. And so this is a project that, you know, is addressing some of the strengths and challenges in our community through art and storytelling. I love that it's local. So it you know, and I love that there's a great organization fit behind it and a great artist. I mean, it was kind of too good to be true.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and then just I'll layer onto that. You know, that's kind of professionally why the Paine's involved, but personally it's a passionate project for me that I have 4 adopted sons, 2 who are white and 2 who happen to be African American. And I'm just very aware of or concerned about and pay attention to, okay, how are these 2 white sons treated differently, or will they be treated differently than our 2 black sons as they mature? So
you have 4 boys.
4 boys.
No girls, come on, Aaron.
It just worked out that way.
That's okay.
But that's great. And you know, when these kids, maybe they're already having some conversations amongst themselves, but for sure when they start getting a little bit older, I bet they're going to have some great conversations, just brother to brother, talking about how they are treated perhaps differently. We hope not, but the reality is the chances are that they will be treated somewhat differently.
Yeah, and I think, the idea is to make it comfortable to talk about, and that's another reason why I love this exhibition. It's, you know, let's it doesn't have to be a scary, intimidating conversation. It can be a really enriching
Sure.
conversation where we understand people better.
Sure. Colleen, again, I'm so impressed with the photos. How does this differ from the types of photos that you normally take? Or is this kind of what you do?
It is very different from what I do. Well, and I work in a lot of different capacities between weddings, commercial photography, and some editorial work. But this gave me an opportunity to do something very different that I knew I had the skill set to do, but I hadn't ever been presented with an opportunity to use it. And so I was very, very excited to do it, to use it in this capacity. I had an opportunity Tracy really gave me free rein to take the photos how I saw fit. And I had approached it with many different levels, whether or not we were going to take all the photos in black and white, whether or not we would go on location and take the photos at their private homes, or if we would take them outside within the Oshkosh areas to see Oshkosh as a background. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, the focus was black and brown faces. And so we really wanted to focus on them as a person. And so I ended up deciding this is how I wanted to take the photographs.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to just focus on photographing more portraits.
Sure.
And kind of modified portraits in a way to still make it fun, inviting, very lifestyle still, but yet in that professional manner.
Sure. Well, and I'm glad, excuse me, feel like I'm losing my voice today for some reason. I'm glad, at least the ones that we saw tonight are in color. Are they all in color?
They are all in color.
Okay.
And of the ones that you saw tonight, Mouché's photo is the only one that is the same photo that you saw tonight that you'll see in the exhibit. The other three they have different photos in the exhibit.
Okay.
Because Mouché's photo, we love it so much that we can't not use it everywhere else.
Absolutely.
So outside of his photo, everyone else actually will get a different photo. So even the photos that you see, be prepared to see different photos.
Okay.
More personality, more fun during the actual exhibit itself.
Fantastic. When does it actually open, Aaron?
So it Friday, April, I want to say 20th. Is that on here?
Yes.
Yep, Friday,
you're
April
right.
20th. It'll be on view from 11 to 6 o'clock that day, and then it's open Saturday and Sunday, which would be the 21st and 22nd, from 11 to 4 each day. It is in what the Paine calls the conservatory, which is the space at the back of our property, and it is a free exhibition to the public.
That's going to be one of my next questions.
Yep. So we just want people to come and enjoy it. And again, as we said, there will be facilitators there. There's stories to read. It'll be engaging. You can. I think it could be a 30-minute experience, but it could probably, if you wanted to make it an hour or more experience, you could do that too.
And are people able to then go through the rest of the Paine if they want to, or?
Well, this is kind of in a separate facility just to make it easy to access it independently. But I mean, the Paine would be open.
Okay. All right.
But one thing I wanted to add, which we haven't talked about, but I'm excited about that will come later, so I don't mean to jump ahead, and when Colleen said there's multiple photographs, that ultimately, funded through our grants, we're going to be producing a photo book. Okay. And the photo book is going to be distributed pretty widely to classrooms, youth groups, Boys and Girls Club, so anywhere where it can sit out in a lobby to where it can go into it's fourth grade classrooms that talk about local history. So the idea was that these could potentially go to fourth grade classrooms.
Oh, sure.
And the idea is just to have them out and visible, and that, so kids can flip through them just like they flip through any storybook.
Sure.
And that teachers also then have them, if they want to tell someone's story, they have the photos and they have the stories of the individuals in there.
And one should absolutely go in the library at Fit Oshkosh.
Yes. Yeah, the library at Fit Oshkosh and the Oshkosh Public Library,
There
too.
you go. There you go. Now, it's going to be at the Paine for how many days?
That's that opening
The
weekend.
3.
Yep, the 3 days open to the
Okay.
public, and then it continues Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're doing some school group visits and community group activities during that time, so not open to
Okay.
the public those days, but still at the Paine.
Okay, and then in case you want to go but you can't get to the Paine, from April 30th through May 4th, it'll be at UW-Oshkosh. From May 5th to the 9th, it'll be at First Congregational Church at 137 Elgin Boulevard in Oshkosh. It'll be at The Draw, that's in Appleton, you said,
That
right?
is,
The
yes.
Draw in Appleton from June 1st through the 8th, and at the Appleton Public Library from September 27th until a date that has not yet been announced. So lots of opportunities and days in which you can check this out, even if you want to see it a second or third time. So I think that this is really great. Are there other folks who we need to thank for this?
Yes, so not only is the Paine and the Oshkosh Communities Foundation and the Wisconsin Humanities Grant, but the folks at UW-Oshkosh have really helped out, and also Candeo Creative here in town has also partnered with us to help sponsor the event and bring it out to the public and help make more folks aware that it's coming and to go see it.
Okay.
There's been several people at UWO, so I feel like I should name them, but then I feel like I might forget someone who's
Well, you
helped.
can name those that you can remember, and
Well, I know Susan Rensing on faculty has really worked with the narratives, helping collect the narratives, and then Roberta McGuire, also on faculty, English faculty, has really helped edit those narratives, and it's been and Fit Oshkosh volunteers transcribed the interviews. It's the story part has been turned into a really big, because they just really wanted to do a good job with it, and it turned into a much bigger project than anybody realized.
well, I think that this is great, and I thank both of you very much for being here. Again, it's the Color Brave Photo Project, Black and Brown Faces, a New Narrative. It's a traveling exhibit, but it will be in Oshkosh at the Paine starting April 20th through the 22nd. And you can, for more information, go to the Paine's website. Also, I'm sure Fit Oshkosh has it on their Facebook page, as well as perhaps their website. So, wonderful job, really. Thank you
Thank
both
you.
so
Thank
much
you
for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much.
letting us come
And,
talk about it.
You've got a great talent. You really
Thank
do.
you. Thank you so much.
Anyway, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking with someone from NAMI here in Oshkosh. We'll be right back.
If you have expired or unused medication, don't flush it, pour it down the drain, or toss it in the trash. Safely dispose of unwanted or expired medications at the drug drop box located inside the Oshkosh Police Department. It's convenient and anonymous, safe and secure, and it's open to everyone 24/7. Drop off your prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs, pet meds, and more. Keep drugs out of the reach of children and out of our water supply. Dispose of unwanted or expired medications at the drug drop box. For more information, visit the Oshkosh Police Department website at oshkoshpd.com.
Looking to give back to the community? Want to help fight hunger in the Oshkosh area? You can by donating food, your time, or your money. The Oshkosh Area Community Pantry needs more than 250 volunteers to operate and can always use new faces to help with a wide variety of tasks. The pantry cannot do it without you. Please consider helping fight hunger in Oshkosh. For more information, visit us online at oacptoday.org. That's oacptoday.org.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's said that a narrow vision is divisive, a broad vision expansive, but a divine vision is all-inclusive. Welcome all groups of citizens working for the greater good of the community. Speak your piece and be inclusive. The Oshkosh Civility Project is a community-based effort. More information at oshkoshcivilityproject.org.
And welcome back to the second half of EyeOnOshkosh. I'm very pleased to be joined now by Kimberly Osman. She is a board member for NAMI-Oshkosh. And NAMI, in case you're not aware of it, stands for National Alliance on Mental Illness. So welcome. Thank you very much for being here. We were scheduled to do someone else, and they couldn't at the last minute. So I'm very happy that you were able to step in and fill her shoes and her seat. So, how big of a problem? You've got a special event coming up, and we certainly want to talk about that. But let's talk about the problem of mental illness. How big of a problem, Kim, is this in the Oshkosh area or within Winnebago County?
Well, as far as the way you worded that, the very way that it's worded that it's a problem, I think is what causes that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we aim to do, is we aim to educate and support people that we like to say are impacted by mental illness. And we do that through our programming, which we have support groups and we have educational classes. And we also go out into the public. We go to nonprofits, for-profits, other community agencies, and we just try to educate them on mental illness. And that I think a lot of people, we have this little kind of analogy we use as far as if somebody would break their arm in 5 places, you'd have people maybe bringing casseroles over and they'd want to sign the cast, and then if you say, well, I have depression, it's not real easy to start that dialogue about it. So there's a lot of myths and stigma, and so what we aim to do is to start that conversation. And so that's why we exist, to support not only the people impacted by mental illness, but the family members and the loved ones as well.
How does one become, I guess, designated or defined as someone suffering from mental illness? Because there are, and here's where I'm kind of going with this. When it's a problem is when someone gets a hold of weapons and goes on mass shootings at schools or country music festivals and things like that. That's one level of mental illness. And then there are other levels, though, that maybe aren't quite to that extreme, where they're going to be going off, committing mass shootings and so forth. So what are the different degrees of mental illness, and how does one become defined as suffering from mental illness?
Well, I'm not a therapist, so I can't give you the real clinical
Sure.
definition, but usually what I've found with my experience working through NAMI and in my own life, there's certain times you go through periods where, whether it's you're suffering from an amount of anxiety that just seems like it's prolonged, or a depression hangs on longer. And so especially if you're a family member and you're noticing that your family member's feeling like that, or you yourself are identifying that something's wrong, then you can get that diagnosis. So that's very important. As far as the people, like you said, that are kind of in a different realm, where they have the erratic, extreme behavior, like I said, I'm not a clinician, so I can't speak to that, but what I see when they're further reported is that there is a lot of environmental things going on with them, and maybe they haven't received the diagnosis. And of course, when you do receive the diagnosis, medication's a very big way that you can maintain your wellness, but there's many other factors too.
Sure.
So I think that's what we, what we try to do with our educational classes and our support group is for the peers. We have a support group for the peers.
Okay.
And that is every second and fourth Wednesday, and that is from 6:30 to 8. That is at the 525 North Main Street location. There's no pre-registration, and it's a safe, confidential place that peers can come and talk about their lived experience, They can talk about maybe frustrations, but also they can talk about what works for them.
Sure.
What they identify as, maybe I turn to art, or I turn to my spirituality, or I turn to a support system. So in that same way, we also offer a class. It's a 10-week class, and it's called Peer-to-Peer Class. It is taught by a trained facilitator, and in the 10 weeks, they learn about medications, they learn about some brain physiology, they learn about a wellness plan, they learn about recovery, relapse prevention, communication skills, and then for the family members, we have a support group also, and that meets at the 525 North Main Street location, and that is the second and fourth Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30. That too is taught by trained facilitators. They're family members or loved ones of people impacted by mental illness, and then we also offer a class, and that's a family-to-family class, which is a 12-week class, and that again talks about the medications, the physiology, but it also has empathy workshop, effective communication skills, and and all of these services are at no cost to the public.
Wow, because that was going to be one of my questions, how much is this? That's amazing that you can do that and give it as a free
Yes.
offering to
Definitely,
people.
Definitely.
Okay. I know that I was trying to make some notes. I didn't get everything jotted down, but I'm sure that all of this is on your website.
Yes.
And you can go to the website at NAMI. I think we're going to be putting it up here shortly. NAMI-Oshkosh.org, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, pretty good memory.
Yeah, very good.
I was
memory.
searching for it, and I'm like, oh, I don't see it here.
you had
But
it. You
NAMI,
had
there
it.
it is, NAMI-Oshkosh.org. And so we've kind of covered some of the services that you offer and so forth. Now, you mentioned the word peer a number of times. What exactly is a peer?
A peer is somebody that has similar lived experience. So it would be people that are impacted by mental illness personally, and so they're considered peers.
Okay, all right. So anyone who feels that they've been impacted in one way or another personally.
Right,
then-
right, as opposed to being a family member or a loved one that's impacted in that way.
So let me try and understand it by asking this question. If a family member, we'll use me, if I'm impacted because someone in my family has committed suicide, I'm kind of a family member, but yet I've been impacted personally. So would I be considered a peer, or would I go to the family one, or could I
Well,
go to both?
You could go to both. I mean, you may, before this even happened, you may have had some depression, be experiencing some depression yourself. So yes, by all means, you can go to both.
Okay, all right. And again, the website, I'm sure, has a lot of stuff on it.
Yes, we
you
have a
know.
lot of links to different things, and I just wanted to mention two more of our services.
Sure,
We have
go right ahead.
a lending library
Okay.
that has a lot of information about mental illness and wellness. That is open to the public, and that is at no cost. And also, we do outreach and advocacy. We have a mental illness 101 that we go out into the community, and you can request that. And both of those services are also at no cost.
Wow, okay. And is that just in the Oshkosh area then, or?
We serve the Oshkosh area, yes,
Okay.
and surrounding communities.
Okay.
So Berlin and Omro and
So a good chunk of Winnebago County, probably.
definitely, yes. Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
And we also collaborate with the local crisis team and law enforcement and other community agencies.
Well, and the reason I focused on suicide in that question is, we are seeing so much suicide these days. A lot of it is kids, unfortunately, but still unfortunately, a lot of it is adults,
Right.
who just for whatever reason aren't able to cope and feel that there is no avenue for them where they can get help, and yet there is. And that's why I wanted to help promote, what you guys do, not just your upcoming event, because I think at one time or another, probably everybody has someone in their family or someone that they know who is very depressed or who commits suicide. I personally have had 2 suicides within my family, and it's used to be that was even tough to say, but well, it wasn't for me, but I think for a lot of people, it's tough to admit that you've had that happen in your family. Because there's a stigma about it. Then you get people telling you, oh, well, that person's not going to be saved, and there's all that other stuff that enters into the picture. And sometimes maybe it's just easier to not say something so that you can avoid some of that stuff, and just rather focus on some of the services that you offer, where you can still talk about it, but there's not some of that religious judgment and some of the other things that go along with it.
Right.
Because believe me, I've heard a lot of nasty things about suicide. People who have committed suicide, and I'm sure you've heard it too through your work. So I think what you're offering here is very much needed, and just a wonderful thing that you guys are doing.
Well, that's why we really, I appreciate you having us on, because the more we can spread the word that we don't want anybody suffering alone or suffering in silence. And our services, as soon as they get there, I've experienced a lot of different people that they're so relieved that they're not alone, and that whether it's the family member or the individual. And that in itself is very empowering and gives hope. And I think that is like the key is to get toward that recovery, which we really want to empower people to live to their full potential, because virtually the mental illness is just a piece of them. It doesn't define them.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I did find on your website relative to suicide is there is a whole section, and it's entitled, "What Should I Do If I Think Someone is Suicidal?" Whether you just think that, or maybe someone has actually said, I don't want to go on, I just want to end this. There are a number of bullet points here that really will help you help them. But at the end of the day, they probably need to talk to someone in a professional capacity.
We have an excellent crisis team through Winnebago County, and that information is on there. And whether they need to just talk to somebody that is neutral and it's confidential. Of course, they have to report if they are saying that they are going to kill themselves or hurt themselves. But we do have an excellent crisis team in Winnebago County.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you've got a 5K run walk coming up. Is it walk run or run walk? Or does it not matter?
Tomato, tomato, I think, but on our signs and in all our promotion, it's run walk.
Okay, all right. So you've got this 5K run walk coming up on May 5th.
Yes.
That is is that a Saturday?
It is a Saturday.
Okay. So tell us about that.
Well, you had talked about the suicide and how it's really hard to talk about. It's such a tough situation, and there's that stigma attached.
Yeah.
And so what this event is about that awareness, to get not only our services out there, but also people that have been impacted by suicide. We have teams that are registered, and that's all the registration for the 5K is on our site. And you can actually, we encourage you to have teams, and then you can have the team name on your t-shirt. And so some people actually have, their team name is a memorial to a loved one they have lost. So I think it's a place of healing, and it's a place to keep that conversation going. And so we also, at the event itself, we have informational tables. So there's a lot of resources there, and we will have a keynote speaker. and it just is, it's important to get the awareness for the mental health and the suicide awareness. That's why we have that as the theme, and it is our primary fundraiser to maintain our self-sustainability. We have one part-time paid employee, so we do rely on volunteers and donations, memberships, and this fundraiser.
Okay.
So all of our services being free and no cost to the public, this is our way of
Sure.
kind of,
How many years in a row have you done this?
this is actually our first year by ourselves.
Okay.
Last year we partnered with Community for Hope,
Okay.
and I believe they have their own upcoming event too.
Okay. So how much money, I was going to ask how much money you've raised in the past, but that may be hard to say really because you
Because
were
we-
partnered with
yeah,
someone else.
right,
How much
right.
money are you hoping to raise at this run?
Well, it's $30
Okay.
per participant, and we are hoping for, well, I'm gonna go big and say 700 people.
Okay.
So, you know, I haven't done the math on that because there's costs involved with advertising.
Sure.
Just putting the signs out and different promotions that we do. So it, you know, I mean, contrary to what, like, any kind of figures, it just is our primary funding source. as
Okay.
far as-
So hoping for 700
Fundraising-wise.
people registering to run or walk,
yes.
or
yes.
maybe a little of both.
Right, right.
Run a
exactly.
little, and then when you get too pooped, you have to walk a little, and then you can start running again.
Right, and even if, you know, family members want to come that, or any friends that want to come and they don't want to participate in the run walk, they're still welcome to come to the North High School, which is the location, and go to the informational booths, and there'll be a memory wall, which is an opportunity for families and friends to just, it's a nice memorial wall. You know, it looks different for every family as far as how they want to honor their loved one, but it's just a very touching wall. And then we'll have face painting, and we'll have a 50-50 raffle, and like I said, the keynote speaker, that won't be real long, and then he'll recognize our sponsors and teams. And then we do have a trophy for the biggest team that registers.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, we want it to be healing, we want it to be awareness, but, you know, we want it to be an enjoyable too, an event too.
Sure,
So,
sure. And if someone's not going to run, but they still want to come and take advantage of, you know, the informational booths and so forth, that's free, right?
Yes,
Okay.
by all means.
And you said it's going to be at North High School, so the run is going to be outside, I'm
Yes,
assuming? Will the other stuff be inside?
Yes, it will be
Okay.
in the gymnasium.
Okay,
And we also, it's not too late if there are any organizations, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit or church or anything, if they want to have a informational booth, we are still accepting that. And we are still accepting sponsorships too, if there's anybody that wants to be a sponsor and we recognize them. The keynote speaker, we recognize them on the t-shirts. And then we, social media, they will be recognized, and anything that we do in print.
okay. So if someone wants to have an informational booth there, is there a charge for that?
No.
That's free. But if they want to be a sponsor, then there's a charge.
Right.
And I suppose that depends on what they want to sponsor.
Well,
Or-
we asked for $1,000,
Okay.
and if you know, I mean, there are some sponsors that say, okay, well, you know, maybe like $800, and we'd like some of our employees to maybe run at a reduced rate, or so it's, you know, I mean, it's all about if they feel like they want to participate and maybe it's something personal with them. It really isn't about the numbers. I mean, it is because it is our self-sustainability, but at
Sure.
the same time, it's all about participation and embracing people. And
Sure. So the keynote speaker, if someone wants to come and hear this individual, what time is that going to be at?
Saturday morning, the registration starts at 7:30 a.m. And that goes until 9.
Okay.
9 o'clock is the keynote speaker.
9 a.m. Okay.
And then at 9:30 a.m., the 5K will begin promptly. And we also have Friday night, the teams that have registered or individuals, they can come and pick up T-shirts, and then they can also pick them up on Saturday morning. If there are people that aren't sure what they're doing or they're waiting on the weather, we do accept people registering right that morning. We had a
Okay.
lot of people do that last year. If people really want a team name on their T-shirt or a T-shirt period, April 19th is the cutoff date for the T-shirts.
Okay. All right. So whether it is raining, snowing, or sunshine, this is going
Or
to be
like
held
the post
outside.
office or the postal service, yeah.
No matter is sleet, snow, rain, whatever,
Right.
you'll be out there running or walking.
Yes.
Are you going to be running or walking?
I haven't decided which one. I'm doing it with my sister and her friend, and they're at the gym every day showing me. And I said, okay, I got to get going. So
Well, the nice thing is, it's a race, and yet it's really not. It's about camaraderie, support for the organization, and being with people who perhaps have suffered similar situations in their lives. And that's what it's about, making those connections, and again, like you said, knowing that you're not alone
yes,
in dealing with something like this.
Yes.
So that's what it's really all about. And if you run and you come in first place, great. Or if you just want to walk the whole thing and you come in last, that's great too.
exactly.
It's about making memories and connections.
Yes.
Yes. So we've got just a few minutes left, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the services. And, again, suicide is probably one of the biggest things that you guys deal with, because that's one of the most critical things that someone can be up against when they get that depressed. But there are smaller things that may happen in someone's life that may lead them to feeling like they need services such as your own. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Well, we actually, that's why we do collaborate with Crisis, because we really don't, we aren't trained professionals in that realm. So we just direct them to Crisis. So we do have some family members, that go to our support groups or take our class that have been impacted by suicide. But the majority of our people are either impacted by mental illness presently, or their family members or loved ones of somebody that's impacted.
Okay. And I know that you folks work closely with local law enforcement as well, because there are so many calls, and we've heard all about them too, whether it's in our own community or some other community around the country, where someone is having some kind of an episode, where they may end up in a standoff situation with officers, or they just may feel like they're at the end of their rope and still getting officers involved. So the officers have to really, not only do they need their police training and their law enforcement skills, but they have to use some kind of, I'm going to call it negotiating type skills. Not because we've got hostages involved or things like that, but you have to know how to talk to folks who are having these types of issues that are affecting them.
Yes.
And in essence, making them behave in a certain way that ordinarily they may not. So how much time does NAMI spend, working with and helping to train, if you will, local law enforcement?
Well, they have a crisis intervention team meeting, and that involves different people from the crisis team, law enforcement, our executive director, who Mary, who is our one employee, she attends the meetings. So, there's a lot of collaboration as far as that. We're a relatively small organization. We would like to grow into where maybe we could offer more training as far as education. But because we are primarily run by volunteers, we would have to train the volunteers, and then, they in turn would have to train the others. So,
Okay.
And that's something that we're working on, is to slowly grow our organization as we see the community, as we recognize the needs of the community.
Sure. How long have you guys been in Oshkosh?
Well, before it was the Hope and Care Center, and they weren't actually a NAMI affiliate. When you're a NAMI affiliate, you actually are held to the national NAMI bylaws and policies.
Okay.
So I have only been on the board for, I think, about a year, and involved with NAMI for about 2 years. So
Okay.
that's a good question.
And the next nearest NAMI would be what, Appleton, maybe?
Fox Valley has a NAMI.
Fox Valley, okay.
Fond du Lac has a
Okay,
NAMI.
all right.
They're pretty, well, Fox Valley serves, I think, Shawano County, but I believe Green Bay has one.
Okay.
So, they're relatively common.
So you're very close by, so anyone who feels the need, reach out and talk to someone. I think it's just so important that people understand that there are people there who care,
Yes.
who can help, and if they can't help directly, they will point you in the direction of someone who can.
Most definitely.
You're not alone. So if you're suffering from any kind of depression, that, we all have the blues from time to time. That doesn't make us suicidal, that doesn't make us be suffering from a mental illness. But if it goes on for an extended period of time, then, it really is time to reach out and talk to someone.
Yes,
so-
definitely. And there can be environmental things that come up that exasperate maybe some sort of low-lying mental, there's so many situations where reaching out for help is really important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for being here. And
you.
good luck with the walk. Again, the 5K run walk is going to be on Saturday, May 5th at Oshkosh North High School. And if you want more information or you want to register in advance, go to the NAMI website, which is NAMI-Oshkosh.org. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you,
Thanks to
Cheryl.
all of our guests tonight, and thanks to the crew. Most of all, thanks to you at home. We'll see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.